Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how to approach those tricky diagrams and give you all the vocabulary you need to absolutely crush it. We're talking line graphs, bar charts, pie charts, the whole shebang. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe and press the bell icon so you won't miss any valuable videos that can help you learn new skills. All right, let's kick things off with the line graph, probably one of the most common visuals you'll encounter on the IELTS. Line graphs are everywhere, from academic papers to business reports, and mastering them is crucial. Now imagine you're looking at a line graph. Think of it like a story unfolding over time. Each point on the graph represents a moment in that story, and the line connecting them shows how things change. The horizontal axis, that's your timeline, and the vertical axis shows you the value of whatever's being measured. It could be anything from temperature changes to stock prices. The key here is to describe the trends you see. Are there any patterns, any significant changes? These are the details that will make your description stand out. Is the line shooting up like a rocket? That's a rapid increase. This could indicate a sudden surge in sales, population growth, or any other metric. Is it slowly creeping upwards? We call that a gradual increase. This might suggest steady progress or consistent improvement over time. Maybe it's doing the opposite and taking a nosedive. You guessed it, rapid decrease. This could be a sign of a sudden drop in market value or a decline in performance. The examiners are looking for that nuanced vocabulary. They want to see that you can describe these changes accurately and vividly. Instead of just saying increase, try surge, climb, or even escalate. These words add variety and depth to your description, and for a decrease, think plummet, decline, or dwindle. Using a range of vocabulary shows your language proficiency. Don't forget about those flat periods either. That's when things stabilize or remain constant. This can be just as important as the changes, and if you see any sudden jumps or drops, that's a fluctuation. These can indicate volatility or instability in the data. Now let's talk about specific points on the graph. Identifying these points can help you provide a more detailed analysis. Got a high point? That's your peak. This is the highest value reached during the period being measured. The lowest point? That's the trough. This is where the value hits its lowest during the timeline. Remember, the more specific you are, the better. Detailed descriptions show a deeper understanding of the data. Oh, and one more thing. Pay close attention to the units of measurement. These units tell you what exactly is being measured and in what quantities. Are we talking about percentages, numbers, or something else entirely? Be crystal clear in your description. This clarity helps avoid any confusion. Right, let's look at an example. This will help you see how all these elements come together. Imagine a line graph showing the number of tourists visiting a particular country over a decade. This kind of data is common in many IELTS tasks. You might say something like, the number of tourists visiting the country saw a steady increase from 2010 to 2015, peaking at 2 million visitors. This kind of detailed description is what examiners are looking for. Practice describing different line graphs, and you'll be well on your way to acing this section. The more you practice, the more natural it will become. Now let's move on to bar charts. These visual tools are incredibly useful for comparing different sets of data across various categories. These bad boys are all about comparing different categories. They help us see at a glance how different items stack up against each other. You might have bars representing different countries, products, or even age groups. Each bar stands for a specific category, making it easy to compare them side by side. Your job is to highlight the key differences and similarities between them. This means paying close attention to the height of each bar and what it represents. Just like with line graphs, we've got our trusty horizontal and vertical axes. These axes are essential for understanding the data presented. The horizontal axis usually shows the categories, while the vertical axis shows the value for each category. This setup allows us to quickly grasp the differences in values. Instead of describing trends over time, we're looking for the most significant differences. This could be the highest or lowest values, or any noticeable patterns. Which bar is the tallest? That indicates the highest value. This is often the most important piece of information on the chart. Which one is the shortest? That's your lowest value. Identifying these extremes helps in understanding the range of data. Instead of constantly saying the highest or the lowest, let's spice things up with some synonyms. This makes your analysis more engaging and varied. How about greatest, largest, or most significant for high values? These terms can add a bit of flair to your descriptions. And for low values, we can use smallest, fewest, or least significant. This variety in vocabulary keeps your analysis interesting. And don't forget about those comparisons. Comparing bars directly can reveal important insights. Is one bar twice the size of another? This could indicate a significant difference in the data. Is there a considerable gap between two bars? Such gaps can highlight disparities that are worth noting. These are all details that deserve a mention. The more specific you are, the clearer your analysis will be. Let's look at an example. Examples help solidify your understanding and provide a practical application of the concepts. Imagine a bar chart showing the sales figures for different types of smartphones. This is a common scenario where bar charts are used. You could say the iPhone 13 Pro Max dominated the market with the highest sales, while the iPhone 13 Mini lagged behind with significantly lower figures. This kind of detailed comparison is very effective. Notice how we're not just stating the obvious, but also highlighting the difference in magnitude. This adds depth to your analysis. That's what's going to impress those examiners. A thorough and nuanced analysis shows your understanding. Another thing to keep in mind is the overall trend. Even though bar charts are about categories, trends can still emerge. Try describing various bar charts, focusing on clear comparisons and using a wide range of vocabulary. This will make your analysis stand out and be more comprehensive. Let's dive into the world of pie charts, those colorful circles that show us how something is divided up. Think of it like slicing a cake. Each slice represents a proportion or percentage of the whole. The key with pie charts is to accurately describe the proportions and highlight the most significant segments. Start by identifying the largest and smallest slices and then move on to comparing the rest. Let's get creative with our language. Instead of saying 25%, we can say a quarter, 1 in 4, or a significant portion. And when it comes to comparisons, we've got a whole arsenal of words at our disposal. We can use greater than, less than, almost equal to, roughly half, twice the size of, and so much more. Let's look at an example. Imagine a pie chart showing the distribution of energy sources in a particular country. You could say renewable energy sources accounted for a relatively small proportion of the total energy mix, with solar and wind power combined contributing only 5%. Another thing to keep in mind is the overall distribution. The more pie charts you describe, the more confident you'll become in your ability to analyze and articulate the data. Chapter 4. Tackling tables, extracting key insights. Now let's talk about tables. Those grids of numbers that can seem a bit daunting at first glance, but don't worry. We're going to break them down step by step. Tables are all about presenting data in a structured way, with rows and columns representing different variables. Your job is to sift through the numbers and extract the most important information. The first step is to understand what the table is showing. Look at the headings for the rows and columns. They'll tell you what variables are being compared. Then scan the numbers to get a general sense of the data. Take your time to familiarize yourself with the layout and the type of data presented. Once you have a good understanding of the table, you can start looking for trends and patterns. This is where the real analysis begins. Are there any significant increases or decreases? These changes can tell you a lot about the data's story. Are there any outliers, values that are much higher or lower than the others? Outliers can often indicate anomalies or special cases. When describing trends, use the same principles we discussed for line graphs. Consistency in your approach will make your analysis clearer. Talk about increases, decreases, fluctuations, and peaks. These elements help paint a complete picture of the data's behavior over time. And don't forget to use a variety of vocabulary to keep your writing interesting. Using different terms can make your analysis more engaging and less repetitive. For example, let's say you're looking at a table showing the population of different cities over time. This kind of data can reveal fascinating trends about urban growth and development. You might say the population of Tokyo experienced a steady increase throughout the 20th century, reaching a peak of over 13 million in 2000. This kind of specific detail adds depth to your analysis. When comparing data points, use clear and concise language. Clarity is key to ensuring your audience understands your insights. The key to tackling tables is to approach them strategically. By breaking down the data into manageable parts and analyzing each element carefully, you can uncover valuable insights that might not be immediately obvious. Summarize your findings in a way that highlights the most important points. This will help you communicate your insights effectively. Remember, the goal is to make the data tell a story that is both informative and engaging. With practice, you'll become more confident in your ability to extract key insights from any table you encounter. Chapter 5, which is maps. Maps often depict changes to a location over time or differences between two places. Your task is to describe these changes clearly and compare the layouts. Focus on using vocabulary for locations, for example, north, adjacent to, in the center. And for changes, for example, was replaced by, was expanded, was constructed. Learn to identify major changes, such as new developments, removals, or modifications, and organize your response with an introduction, an overview of significant transformations, and detailed descriptions of specific changes. Practicing clear and concise language while avoiding unnecessary detail is key to a strong response. Now let's take a quick look at last chart types, which process that you might encounter on the IELTS. A process diagram illustrates steps or stages in a process, such as manufacturing natural cycles or how something works. Your task is to describe the process logically, covering all stages without skipping details. Focus on using sequencing words, for example, first, next, then, finally, and passive voice, for example, is heated, is processed, when appropriate. Identify the start and end points, describe the flow step by step, and highlight any cyclical patterns or key features. Practice writing clear, structured responses, ensuring your description is accurate and concise while avoiding personal opinions or explanations not shown in the diagram. In this one, try to practice more and more because it will give you confidence to you. And finally, I would like to thank you for each and everyone here who's watching this video, and please do subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon. Good luck with your studies. Believe yourself and trust the hard work.